Welcome back. To complete our discussion talking about fire safety, joining me again is Dwayne Joseph. You're with the Coalition of Black Firefighters, and Anthony Payne, President of the Coalition of Black Firefighters. Now let's jump in because I need help. Let's talk a little bit about kitchen things, catching fire, like in cooking, and what we should or should not do. Let's say I bake, so this is not me, but those people that use cooking oils, and it may get overheated and start to smoke over. I mean, a little water on that, how should we, Dwayne is like, oh, wait a minute. How should we handle those kinds of incidents?
In dealing with the stove, you normally a good investment would be to get a portable extinguisher.
Okay.
It's rated A, B, or C on the side, and basically the extinguisher takes care of your wood, your trash, your paper, liquids, and electrical. So if you have an electrical stove, just by that dry chemical extinguisher, you can use that to put out a stove fire.
Okay, and you won't have to think so much of what to use because that is a multifaceted extinguisher. Okay.
Correct. And you can buy those at your store, your local store, Walmart, Home Depot, things of that nature. You can also just blanket it if you're catching a grease fire or something like that before it gets too out of hand. You could take a pan top or skillet top and blanket the fire. Try to cut off the
oxygen to it.
Cut the oxygen off to it to fuel the fire.
Okay. Now you shouldn't use your dishcloth. I must admit, one time I accidentally made a mistake of wanting to smother it with the dishcloth, and then that got a little bit singed. No?
Well, it's possible to use it on maybe a very small pot, and that would be it could be a solution. That would be my last resort if I just had to on something that small. But if it's a really small pot, just try to remove it from the stove if possible. I mean, and sometimes it's going to be too hot depending on what type of pot it is or anything, or pan that is of that nature. But I wouldn't recommend using a cloth because it's very flammable. It's cotton, it can catch on fire.
And that tends to be our first reaction, is just to use what we have at hand, and that tends to be what's at hand.
But we've got to keep in mind, though, when we do that, what you have in your hand is also flammable.
Exactly.
Fire. So we're just thinking off an instinct, which is good to have, but by doing that, there's a possibility that they can catch fire, and while our problem went from here to here.
Too much bigger. Okay, so the tops, pot tops, or that extinguisher, rated A, B, or C.
Yes, and this would be good to keep that under your sink or just somewhere where you can get to it. Preferably where the kids can get to it, possibly, but somewhere you can go to it quickly and grab it.
Okay, let me ask you another question about microwaves in terms of heating things up in microwaves. I must admit, one time I was trying to heat up a towel, you know, just to apply for soothing comfort, and it was a little bit toasty. So we should be careful and cautious of what we're putting in our microwaves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I would.
That's true.
You're pretty dangerous, aren't you?
Well, you have to think through these things because, you know, sometimes we think these are materials that are not very flammable, but they can be flammable when we put them under extreme circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, same thing about little bowls and things. You really need to know what's microwavable and what really isn't.
And usually the manufacturer would say it on the bottom of that particular item if it's microwave safe or not. And there are some cloths that I have seen that are microwave safe for heating purposes, but I wouldn't recommend it. You know, and for liability's sake, some people would say, I heard the firemen say it was okay to do certain things. You should always follow the manufacturer's specifications.
Right.
If they say only certain materials are allowed in this select microwave or this brand of microwave, then that's what you should follow.
As well as how much time. Sometimes we put it in for longer than what it is recommended.
Yes.
And that can get into difficulty. Okay, well, let me switch and ask about, we mentioned in one other segment about space heaters and things like that. What should we sort of consider when we're using space heaters in terms of distance from things and the surroundings of that so we don't create a fire hazard?
If you absolutely have to use a space heater, because sometimes you may just have to use that, be mindful of where you're putting it. In our bedrooms, there can also be a scary sight too. You may have clothes on the floor, a curtain right by the space heater, just different things that can catch fire. We got to realize that the space heater produces heat. So if it overheats or if it's heating for a while and it's next to something that's cloth or paper or anything that can catch fire, once it reached the heating point, that can catch fire, which starts a chain effect, which can catch whatever clothes or curtains or whatever is on fire. That's normally what happens when people use space heaters around wintertime. That's kind of where the fires pick up, because they cut the space heater on and they go to sleep thinking, I'm warm, everything is fine, but they're not really paying attention to what is around. So be cautious where the space heater is placed.
And probably only use them when you are awake.
Yes, that would,
that would help us out.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a good one,
absolutely,
Pam. And also they have the kind that you can buy that if they tip over, they cut themselves off. So that's worth the investment as well.
Definitely worth the investment.
See, I'm a little bit fire safety here. Let me ask here before we run out of time too about holiday season, especially around the Christmas holiday season with trees and things like that. What are some things we need to keep in mind at that time of year?
If you're using a natural Christmas tree, I recommend that you keep it watered. Sometimes when they dry out a little too much or you don't add any water to them, they usually get really dry and you have hot lights on them. And they catch fire very easily. And they don't take very long to go up in flames. And we were talking about it a little earlier. Sometimes as quick as 40 seconds, the whole room could be on fire. So we have to be very cautious of what we do with natural Christmas trees.
Okay.
And just so you can see what he's talking about, if you go to YouTube and type in Christmas tree fire, you can see exactly how fast the Christmas tree catches on fire, what the process is of how fire catches on fire, the room banks up with smoke and completely blackens out. It's normally, like you said, normally within 40 seconds to a minute. By that time, just that quick. So we definitely want to keep those watered if you have a real Christmas tree on a regular basis.
Okay, and turn them on when you're there, not have them going when you're not there. That's another thing.
Exactly.
Now let me ask this one other quick question. If we do find ourselves in smoke or fire and we've called for assistance, what is it, drop, stop and roll, or stop, drop and roll, or I know roll and drop is in there. What's the right thing?
Stop, drop, and roll is usually if you're on fire.
If you're on fire,
if you're on fire. But if you're not on fire and you're in a room and it's filling with smoke, the best thing to do is to stay low and get out of that room.
So stay low, because the oxygen level is still going to be down as you try to exit.
Yes,
and having that fire exit strategy where everybody meets up and knows where to go.
Absolutely. If you're in a room, you wake up to smoke, roll out of the bed on the ground, stay low, and like you said, get out of the room. Try to usually have at least 2 exits to every room.
Okay.
And have your exit strategy.
Thank you so much for joining me and for helping me out. I'm going to be fire safety now.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's our show. For Health Alert, I'm Pam Butler. I'd love to hear your comments, questions, or suggestions for future shows. Please write me at Health Alert USA, P.O. Box 50913, Tulsa, Oklahoma 74150, or if you're on the email trail, please email me at healthalert@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit me on YouTube at youtube.com/Health Alert USA. Take care, and remember, stay fire safety, read the instructions, and get that extinguisher ABC label. Take care. This program would not be possible without the support of OU Physicians in Tulsa.